This video is going to take a look, just a quick review of what happens when we want to factor these trinomials when the coefficient is not 1. So now all of a sudden you see that leading coefficient is a 3. So this box method is an alternate method of just guessing and checking and refoiling. And so the way you're going to do it, we got this 2 by 2 box. In that top left corner, we're going to put the first term 3x squared. And in the bottom right corner, you see step 2 is you're going to put the bottom right corner with the last term 12. So step 3 says you multiply the first and the last. So 3 times 12 is 36. What I like to do is just come over here to the side and write 36. And then what we want to do is find the factors of 36 that add up to be 13, that middle term. And so you start thinking through, you got 1 and 36. Well, that doesn't add up to be 13. You got 2 and 18, not yet. You got 3 and 12. You got 4 and 9. Then all of a sudden, there's our group. There's our factor group that adds up to 13. 4 plus 9 is 13. So now we go back to our checklist. And now at step 5, we put those factors into the missing pieces with an x. Missing pieces of the box. So 4x, 9x. Now what we want to do is find the GCF of each column and each row. So in other words, we're going to go down this column. So the GCF of 3x squared and 9x is 3x. The GCF of 4x and 12 is 4. Now we're going to do the rows. So the GCF of 3x squared and 4x is the value x. And the GCF of 9x and 12 is 3. You see everything's positive. Well, our factored binomials will actually, they're going to be these sets right here. So our new factored version, so 3x squared plus 13x plus 12 factored out will be 3x plus 4 in one set of parentheses, x plus 3 in the other set of parentheses. So for number 2, go ahead and draw our box. That 3x squared is going to go in the first piece of the box. The plus 20 is going to go at the end. Now we want to multiply 3 times 20, which is 60. So we need factors of 60 that add up to be negative 16. Right? Right? We want them to add up to be negative 16. So this means we're going to have 2 negative numbers. You start thinking through, negative 1, negative 60. That doesn't do it. Negative 2, negative 30. Not quite. Negative 3, negative 20. That doesn't do it. 60. How about negative 6 and negative 10? And there's my set of factors. So now go back to my box. I'm going to do negative 6x, negative 10x. Now since there are negatives floating around in the box, anytime that we end up starting a box or a row or a column with a negative, we're going to factor out a negative. So here's what I mean. You start this particular column, 3x squared and negative 10x. And the only thing I can pull out is an x. Since we start the second column, negative 6x and 20, with a negative, that means I need to factor out a minus 2. With this row, we're starting with a positive 3x squared and then negative 6x. So we can pull a 3x out of that group. And then this second row, you see we're starting with negative 10x, which means we need to start, we're going to factor out a negative 10. So my factors here are x minus 2 in one set of parentheses, and 3x minus 10 in the other set of parentheses. Now, if you want to check your answer very quickly, what you can do is FOIL that back out. So let me take a second. All right, I'll do my check in blue. X minus 2 times 3x minus 10. So I'm going to FOIL. X times 3x is 3x squared. X times negative 10 is minus 10x. Negative 2 times 3x is minus 6x. Negative 2 times negative 10 is positive 20. When I combine my like terms, 3x squared minus 16x plus 20, I get back to my original, which tells me this was the right factored form. So let's do one more example in this particular video, and that'll be number 3 right down here at the bottom. So let's maybe give ourselves a little bit of separation. So let's draw our box. I got plenty of room now. So top corner of that box is going to be 6x. The bottom corner is 1. So 1 times 6. Looking for factors of 6. I need to add up to 7. And sure enough, 1 and 6 will do it. So we put 1x. We put 6x. Excuse me, I forgot the 6x squared in the original problem. Now let's go through and pull out GCF. So the GCF of that column, 6x squared and 6x, is 6x. The only thing I can divide both of those by is 1. We'll do that row. We can factor an x out of that one. And this one, the only common factor is 1. So my two factors, we have 6x plus 1. And since there's nothing, since this is a positive 1 right here, that means it's going to be plus 1 in our parentheses, and then we have x plus 1 there. So maybe we'll do one more example on page 5. I believe this is page 5. Yeah. So let's take a look at maybe number 9. So go ahead and draw your box in. And we need 3x squared here. And this is a little different because you have negative 12. So multiply 3 times negative 12, we have negative 36. So we need them to add up to negative 5. So factors of negative 36 that add up to negative 5. To get a factor, to get negative 36, when you multiply, we need a positive and a negative. Right, so you can do negative 1 and positive 36. Well, that doesn't add up to negative 5. You can do negative 2 and 18. I'm not going to do the trick. So you kind of keep playing around with this. And eventually, you come up with negative 9. I believe 4 will do it. Negative 9 times 4 is negative 36, and if you add those, you get negative 5. So I've got my two numbers, negative 9x and 4x. And now it's a matter of let's go through and find our GCFs. So the GCF of 3x squared and 4x is x. Here, we're starting with a negative, which means I'm going to pull out whatever the GCF is, which here is 3, and that should be negative 3. Alright, and then for this one, I can pull out, since I'm starting with a positive, I'm going to pull out a positive. I can pull out a positive 3x. And here, I know there's a negative 12, but I'm starting with a positive 4, which means I'm pulling out a positive. And then the GCF of 4x and 12 is just 4. So my final answer, 3x plus 4, and then x minus 3. And if you wanted to FOIL that out very quickly, just to check yourself, so first would be 3x squared. 3x times negative 3 is negative 9x. 4 times x is plus 4x. And then 4 times 3, right, if we did our FOILing, we end up with minus 9. Oh, excuse me, minus 12. Combine my like terms, 3x squared, negative 9 plus 4 is minus 5x, minus 12. Sure enough, that's what we started with, which tells me that I factored this thing correctly.